Triangles review. This video will serve as a review from everything that we have learned about triangles so far. Our first problem is classifying triangles by its angles or sides. There are 3 different classifications when we're talking about angles. A triangle can either be classified as acute, obtuse, or right. Acute means all of the angles are less than 90 degrees. Obtuse means one of the angles is more than 90 degrees. And right means one of the angles equals 90 degrees. So looking at our picture, because one of the angles is more than 90, this will be classified as obtuse. There are also 3 different classifications for a triangle based on its sides. A triangle can be classified as scalene, isosceles, or equilateral. Scalene means all the sides are different, meaning not congruent. Isosceles means at least 2 sides are congruent. And equilateral means all sides are congruent. Because 2 sides are congruent on this triangle, this would be an obtuse isosceles triangle. Now you try. Choose the correct answer below. In this example, we want to find the value of x, so we need to remember an important theorem. The triangle sum theorem, which basically says all 3 angles of a triangle have to add up to 180 degrees. So that means that my first angle plus the second one plus the third one must equal 180. So I can set up an equation saying 70 plus 10x to represent the 3 angles has to equal 180, and then I'll use my algebra skills to solve for x. So then x equals 4. Now you try. Using the angle sum theorem, find the value of x. Choose your answer below. We also talked about triangle congruence, which is basically saying each part of a triangle is congruent to another part of a triangle. So we can, using our congruent statement, identify which parts are congruent. When we're talking about angles, we're talking about triangles, we're talking about the vertices. So we're saying angle W is congruent to angle W because those are the first 2 letters. Angle V is congruent to angle S because those are the second letters. And then angle X is congruent to angle T because those are the third letters. So now if I want to find the corresponding angle or side, we are talking about line XW. So XW would be that side that is in between the green and the red. So that must match up with TW. So now you try. Complete the congruent statement by naming the corresponding angle or side. Choose the correct answer below. So we can determine if 2 triangles are congruent if all the pieces or all parts of a triangle are congruent to all parts of another triangle. So when I say parts, I'm talking about the 3 sides and the 3 angles. But we saw that it would be easier if we had a few theorems that reduced the amount of information I needed to prove that we're congruent to say the 2 triangles are congruent. So those theorems were the side theorem, meaning all 3 sides were congruent to all 3 sides. The side angle theorem, meaning that the angle had to be included in between the 2 sides. The angle side angle theorem, where the side was included in between the 2 angles. And the angle side theorem, where the side was not included in between the 2 angles. Then we had the special HL one, which only works for right triangles. So I'm going to take my picture and I'm going to see what information I have. Because this side is being shared by the two triangles, then that is congruent to itself, meaning it would be true for both triangles. Then we have this angle given to us. So we have a side, we have an angle. So in order to prove that the two triangles are congruent, we would need a third piece of information. I do not have any more information given to me, and there's no more information I can come up from the picture. There are no vertical angles, there's no other theorems I can apply. So because I do not have enough information, these two triangles are not congruent because not enough information. So now you try. Determine if the two triangles are congruent, and if they are, state how you know. Select your answer below. So now we're going to kind of go in reverse. We're using the HL theorem to prove that the two triangles are congruent. So what information must be given to us? Because they tell us that this triangle on the right is a right triangle, the left one must also be right, because these two lines, or two angles rather, form a straight line, so the two angles must be 90. So that means yes, we could use HL. Then we are also told, or we can tell from the picture, that this side that's being shared by the two triangles is congruent to itself. Therefore, I do have a side. So the HL depends on the specific sides given, because we call one of the sides a hypotenuse and the rest are legs. So the hypotenuse would be that side that's opposite of the right angle. So that means that these two sides would be the hypotenuse, meaning that the blue side that's shared is the leg. So we have the leg. In order to make these two triangles congruent, we need a statement saying that SE, the hypotenuse, is congruent to SR, the other hypotenuse. Now you try. State what additional information is required in order to know that the triangles are congruent for the reason given. Select your answer below. So our last example is we want to find the value of x. So we want to remember about two specific types of triangles that have key information: isosceles and equilateral triangles. Isosceles triangles say that two sides are congruent, like our tick marks shown. When those two sides are congruent, base angles, meaning those angles that are opposite of the sides, are also congruent. So that means that the measurement of angle 2 has to equal 41, because they have to be congruent. So if the measurement of angle 2 is the same thing as x plus 50, I can substitute x plus 50 has to equal 41, and then I can solve for x using my algebra skills. An equilateral triangle means the same idea. If all three sides are congruent, then all three angles also have to be congruent. So now you try. Find the value of x. Select your answer below.